Hey, what's up? This is Seth Green, and you are listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark, and I am so hot, I would desperately like a glass of water. Please, please, give me some water.
This is Cindy Preston, and I'm with Mark on Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Melissa Peterman from CMT's The Singing Bee and the television show Reba. And I have to tell you, I just have to get it off my chest, I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi there. This is Faith Roscoe from General Hospital. You're listening to Mark on Somewhere in Vegas. And you better watch out. We know how to find you if you're not listening.
Hi, this is Shannon Egan from Whippet, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hey, this is Lee Allen Baker with Somewhere in Vegas, talking with Mark with a Q.
This is Courtney Cronin. You're listening to Somewhere in Vegas with your host, Mark, and I would make sure to listen every week because he's a sure bet.
Hey, this is the Money Man, Eddie Money. I got 2 tickets to Paradise, and it's, you know what? It's Somewhere in Vegas. And what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Hi, this is Crystal Gale, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Terry Nunn from Berlin, and you're listening to Mark Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Miracle Laurie from Joss Whedon's Dollhouse. There are 3 flowers in a vase, and I'm listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Erin Hill, and you are listening to Mark on Blog Talk Radio and Somewhere in Vegas. Mark is a great guy.
Hi, this is Sean Pulaski. I'm still trying to figure out Mark Pico's sexuality, but I know you're listening to Somewhere Live in Vegas.
Here you go, Mark. I'm sorry. I thought you were she. I'm sorry. Get out of the tent. Let's get out of here.
Hey, this is Lance and Anna from Free Radio. And Anna?
And you're listening to Somewhere in Vegas.
Yes.
My favorite.
You know, that's usually what happens with me. I go to Vegas and I get lost, and so I end up somewhere in Vegas.
Somewhere in Vegas.
But I just don't know where it is.
Not quite sure.
Yeah, word.
Get ready. It's going to be hot. It's in Vegas. Check out Mark. Be there or be square.
My guest at this time is a very celebrated actress. If you are a fan of 80s cult classics, which I am a huge fan of as well. But she's returned to acting. She's had some really good movies coming out right now. She's working on, obviously COVID has delayed that, but these things should be coming out sometime next year. I know people are going to be craving entertainment since Hollywood is pretty much shut down right now at the moment. Laurene Landon is on with us right now. How you doing?
Better than most and not as good as some. How are you?
I'm doing great. I mean, I just was reviewing your career before we came on the show. It's been great to be able to see so much stuff that you did. Let's start at the beginning, though. I mean, you originally wanted to become a police officer, right?
That's correct. I wanted to be a law enforcement officer when I was going to Cal State University. I went to Biscayne Academy, and that's what I wanted to do. It was my dream. But after I was there for 18 weeks, we started going to the shooting range. And when we started having to shoot the clay pigeons, I realized then and there that I was never going to be able to pull a gun on somebody. Unless, of course, I was downtown in the middle of an alley and I might need some money. No. I was never going to be able to shoot somebody. I knew then and there, and I got in a lot of trouble because I refused to go back. After 18 weeks, I passed everything. The physical aspect of it, the academic, everything. I passed everything with flying colors. But when it came time to actually shoot the targets, and I'm a marksman. When I did Eye to Jury, I was a marksman. And Armando Sante used to get really mad at me because I would shoot the targets through the heart, and he would throw them out the window on the way back on the freeway when we came back from the shooting. But I'm a marksman. I've always been great at shooting, but and I love going to practice shooting. And I used to shoot with the cops at the LAPD. I had some friends on the force, but I could never do what they do. I have tremendous respect for what they do, but I could never be in a predicament situation where I would have to take out a gun and in that moment decide to shoot somebody, to kill somebody. I think it takes a certain type of personality. I think that in law enforcement, there has to be a psychological component to the training, which there isn't at the moment as far as I know. But getting back to your question, I was simply too emotional. I'm a Pisces. There you go.
You know, like you said, you're in college right now. At that point, were you studying law enforcement, or what were you studying at that time?
Law enforcement, and I was studying acting at the time, and a modeling coach saw me on the campus and said, "Do you want to model?" And I said, "Are you joking?" I didn't believe it at all. So I started modeling, and one thing led to another, and that's what got me into acting. But I was going to Biscayne Academy, which was right across the street from Cal State LA at the time. So I made a radical decision in college to pursue an acting career. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah, you know, with your training at the academy, I mean, that obviously translated over to acting and some of the roles that you've had in the past. I mean, was that something that kind of the directors were looking at, you know, in terms of, you know, your training? I mean, obviously Maniac Cop was a huge thing where, you know, you had to play a police officer. Was your training, was that helpful in terms of your acting career?
You mean the Biscayne Academy training? I don't really think so, because a lot of the training had to do with exercising and very, very arduous, difficult things that we had to do physically, and then academically we had to pass a lot of tests. But that didn't really come into play playing a cop in a movie. I mean, a movie is a movie. You know, they hand you a gun, and yes, I knew how to shoot the gun, obviously. But I don't think that came into play. No one's ever asked me that question. Thank you for asking me that question. No one's ever asked me that my whole life.
I'm kind of surprised nobody has, considering some of the things that you've done in your past. But you talk a little bit about psychology. You know, when it came to, you know, going to the academy, and there had to be a certain kind of psychology in there as well. Going into your acting, I mean, obviously that takes a lot of psychology. It takes a lot of, you know, your brain kind of working to, you know, become a role, or kind of seek motivation in terms of what you do in terms of your character. How has it been for you to kind of go into the acting realm and kind of, you know, use your brains, as it were, in terms of getting into a role, or, you know, kind of thinking quick on your feet?
I always start by memorizing the line, because I think by memorizing the dialogue, I get the dialogue out of the way. From there, because that to me is the skeleton. After I have memorized the lines, I try to develop a full-dimensional, three-bodied character by improvisation. So I always bring props to the set. I always have five or six different things in my back pocket to bring to the set to see what will and what will not work. And so far no one's said to me, "No, you cannot do that. I don't like that at all." Because when I'm given a script, usually it's just, you know, the dialogue tape back and forth, and that is not how we are in real life. It's moment to moment. It's called tempo rhythm, and that's the Stanislavski method and the Ivana Chubik method, which I learned very, very early on, because every change of circumstance alters your tempo rhythm. So not only do you have to develop a character or build a character around some basic lines, but you also have to disconnect on an emotional level, that there's a camera out there. I never, ever have acknowledged a camera. Even when I did my first huge movie, which was All the Marbles with Peter Falk, it was a MGM movie, and there were 2,000 girls that they had seen, and I was one of the 2,000. And Robert Aldrich repeatedly said to me, "You have an amazing instinct to disconnect and not feel uncomfortable around the camera." When I had virtually done nothing, maybe one or two little movies here or there, but nothing that was a major motion picture at the time. So I don't know, I guess you could call it instinct. I don't know. Yes, there is psychology involved. I think you have to be very open. I think you have to be very, very sensitive and able to expose yourself and not give a fuck, give a darn what people think. If you care about what people think, you're going to retreat into a shell. I always go outside the shell, and they can always, if they want, bring it down. But I always try to go do more. So yeah, I guess psychology definitely does come into play.
Now, kind of going off of that. I mean, you've played so many serious roles, but there were a couple comedies in your resume. Airplane 2 sticks out in my mind as well. I mean, how was it for you to kind of go into a comedy? And was Airplane 2 your first comedy?
No, my whole life's been a joke, actually. So I was always told when I was in school, when I was in grade school, that I should get into acting because I was crazy and funny. This is what everyone said at school. And my father used to say that all the time. And I got my sense of humor from my father. God rest his soul. But people always said I had a great deal of sarcasm and amazing sense of humor. And so I parlayed that into comedy. Now, people think of me probably as doing only horror films, but I've done Airplane 2, the movie Sky, opposite Diane Kruger. I got phenomenal reviews from the Hollywood Reporter for that. I improvised everything in that. So I've done drama, comedy, anything you can name, I have pretty much done it. I don't like sword and sorcery movies, action adventure films. I don't like to pigeonhole myself into only being cast as one type of person or in one kind of role. I've been fortunate in that I kind of played the full spectrum of everything in my life.
We'll be back with Laurene right after this.
Yeah, like I said, everything is, every set is different, as it were. If you come into a comedy set or a drama set or something like that as well. You talked earlier about rhythm and method, and, you've had the opportunity to act with some really great actors that have really kind of made their way into the American lexicon, as it were. I would almost say, you had some really great dance partners. When you talk about rhythm, who was probably one of the funnest people, one of the funnest actors that you've had to work with, to kind of play around with in terms of your acting? I
would say there are two. First would be Peter Falk, because Peter Falk and I got along fantastic. He was terrified to fly because we always did first class, and he would never sit in first class. Neither would I. I was always in the back of the plane because planes don't back in the mountains. So the people up front were going to get it first. But Peter and I would always sit in the back. And Peter had an incredible sense of humor. He would always talk to the ladder on the set at Stage 12 at MGM. He would always talk to a lamp. He would always be doing some kind of crazy dialogue to anything. Now, we just got along fantastic. And the other actor was Bruce Campbell. I got along fantastic with Bruce Campbell. And there you go. These are two comedic actors that I played off of. And I think those are the two actors that I had the greatest time working with. I worked with probably some of the biggest actors in Hollywood at one time or another, but offhand, Bruce Campbell and definitely Peter Falk were my favorite.
Now, one little piece of trivia that maybe some people don't realize is that you were actually on Betty Davis's last film. Were you able to share any scenes with her on that film, or at least get to talk to her, or was it a situation where she wasn't there?
Betty Davis?
Yes.
Oh, no. I read with Betty Davis for the lead role in the film. But what happened was she had come to Larry Cohen's house to read, and Larry wanted me to read with her. And I was flabbergasted that I had the opportunity to read with her. She was not able to say the dialogue. Her teeth kept falling out, partial or dentures or something, and she was very, very frail and impossibly thin, and she looked very, very ill. And she had a cigarette in both mouths when she was trying to say her dialogue. Thankfully, I had both her part and my part memorized, so I would kind of throw her the lines, and it was amazing, unbelievable to work with this Hollywood legend, yet tragic, to see how ill she was at the time. And